What's up, everybody? This is Alex Graff. I wanted to talk about this topic today, how to get better at flat picking when you don't really have much time to practice. Today I'm going to go over some ideas, my thoughts, my best practices for practicing when you don't have too much time, how to reframe that, and how to really just be efficient. Let's see. So first things first, if you're feeling this, you're not alone in feeling this. It's a pretty common feeling to feel like you don't have enough time, to feel like it's an uphill battle. So we're all dealing with this, whether we are talking about it or not. I feel like this a lot. So some of this is about reframing our relationship to time and time management. Fun stuff, right? I think at its best, time, the clock, helps us prioritize what's important, and at its worst, it makes us feel like we'll never be good enough, or we will never arrive at the place we're hoping to get to. And all these feelings can give you this really bad sense of urgency that is really counterproductive to improving as a flat picker, as a guitarist. So a lot of times this heightened sense of urgency when we don't have a lot of time, or we perceive that we don't have a lot of time or enough time, can really lead you on a bad path to get some bad habits and practice things in a really bad way, in a rushed way. Yeah, and so doing things fast, practicing in a rushed way is really going to lead you to techniques that are flawed. And if you do it half-assed, if the practice is half-assed, your playing is kind of going to be half-assed. So on one hand of things, urgency can be maybe thought of as a way to motivate you into practicing, but feeling that sense of urgency when you're practicing, and say you only have like 10 minutes to do that, it's a bad thing, and you want to remove the urgency when you're actually practicing. So one myth I want to dispel pretty much immediately is that when it comes to improving on your instrument, becoming a better bluegrass guitar player, there are no shortcuts. There are efficiencies, but there's no silver bullet. There's no one quick trick. And so really it's about dirt time. It's about time spent on your instrument. But more than that, it's about consistency with touching your instrument, playing your instrument. We'll get into that a little bit later. But there you go. I just saved you 10 minutes of searching for the shortcut that now you can spend on your instrument. So in my understanding of music and my personal experience, to get really good at something when it comes to music, you really have to simplify what it is. You have to be specific, and you have to simplify what you're trying to get good at. Right? And there's this classic saying right here, when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority, right? And you see how that sense of urgency, that sense of this uphill battle can lead you to being really just a jack of all trades when it comes to music. And when it comes to bluegrass, a genre where there is a lot of really specific genre-specific language and techniques, that feeling of being scattered and not really prioritizing the most important stuff can really be a detriment. So what you need to have is first this overarching vision, this assessment of what your goals are, where you want to go, where you're going, what you're good at, what you're not so good at. You want to write all that stuff down. You want to have this huge 30,000 foot view of yourself, and you want it to be honest. Sometimes it's hard to be honest with ourselves. This is where a third party, a teacher, a mentor could be useful in kind of redirecting you and critiquing without being harsh, right? So the task is to simplify, to extract from your goals what is achievable, and then simplify those techniques, those pieces of information you don't have memorized, and really just filter down to something really simple that you can hammer and drill on like 10-minute intervals. And then the 10-minute practice session is actually really useful, and it's pointing you back towards that ultimate goal. So all of your practice, like for you to feel fulfilled by your practice, it should be ideally pointing you in the right direction and not getting you further into the thick of it or lost in a different direction. Not to say that sometimes, it is good to have practice that is unorganized occasionally, just to have this reset, to have fun with your instrument. But basically, you want to simplify your practice goals as much as you possibly can. The simpler, the better. So beyond just having really simple goals, I really want to encourage you to try to live a life with music as much as you possibly can. The truth of the matter is that if you play music, you're a musician, right? You need to get that into your head and overcome this idea that you aren't. You are, right? And so you deserve to live a life with music as much as you possibly can. And you should strive to integrate music into your life wherever possible. So a piece of this is to ensure that you're not making it hard on yourself to live with music, to live a life with music. So you want to work at removing obstacles, barriers that prevent you from living with music. And ideally, if you can do this well enough, this will turn your practice sessions into never feeling like practice sessions. So when we're removing barriers to make sure that we have consistent time with our instrument. So, some really simple, basic ideas to do that are thinking about, well, can you easily access your instrument, right? Is it packed up underneath a bed up 2 flights of stairs, and it's really hard to, it takes 2 minutes to get it, but those 2 minutes are kind of a bummer, and I only have 10 minutes, and so if I spend 2 minutes to get the instrument and then I have to spend 2 more minutes at the end, well, then I spent 4 minutes just trying to get into practice mode, and I only had, right? So this can snowball into creating a really big mental block for yourself as to why it's too inconvenient to practice, right? So we want to remove as many of these barriers as possible. Easy access to your instrument. I know that folks maybe don't want to leave their really nice guitars lying around, especially if you live in an arid climate like I do. I can't leave my guitar out. It's going to crack. It's going to dry out. But thinking about how you can create a situation where you just happen upon your instrument, where you stumble upon it, not literally, but making that as easy as possible is I cannot overstate how important that really is. And it's a simple thing, right? It's something that you might not think is part of your practice routine or it's separate, but it's so crucial. So again, consistency is what we're going after. 10 minutes per day is infinitely more useful than a 3-hour makeup, I haven't practiced in so long, so I need to get it all done session that occurs once a week. It's consistency. It's just reps with consistency. It's truly it. There's also a lot of research recently that's coming out that shows that too long of practice sessions can be actually detrimental overall, and that high intensity interval what's that hits, right? If you think about it from a fitness metaphor, that's actually these 10-minute intervals of really focused practice are where it's at. So that works in your favor. If you don't have a lot of time, you can rest easy knowing that might work to your advantage. Okay, along with being able to access your instrument easily, what about a practice space? This is a hard one. This is a tough one. I think we all battle with this. If you don't have a practice room or a dedicated practice space, if you rent and you're sharing space with other people, if you have a partner who doesn't like bluegrass, this can be difficult to, it's one thing to get your instrument. Another thing is to be able to have the space to practice. So I totally get this. Really what I would recommend you kind of reframe that as is that there's no perfect practice. There's no perfect practice space. Similarly with a gig, right? If I was only anticipating playing the most perfect gig with the perfect sound setup, the perfect stage setup, the perfect audience, well, I'm going to be disappointed every single gig because there's no such thing as that. So if you set yourself up for it has to be in this perfect environment, you're setting yourself up for disaster, really. So letting go of those needs, the need of having perfect practice, is really useful, and that applies to the practice space as well. And you're just really training yourself to be able to play through anything, to be able to handle adversity with your instrument, right? Like environmental adversity. It's real. Okay, I know I just said that there are no hacks, there's no shortcut, but this is a candidate for being closest thing to a shortcut that I know of. Listening, right? Really active listening to support your practice routine. It's huge, right? So like for me, every time I'm listening to music, that's an opportunity for me to learn something and to improve, literally. For some people, that might take some of the joy out of listening. Sometimes I listen and I let it all go, and I don't have any of these goals or expectations of myself of I'm going to pull one thing out of this song that I'm going to implement in my own playing, right? I don't want to kill the joy of listening, but my question for you is like, do you know how to actively listen? Like what that really means? And what I mean by actively listening is like using a little bit of music theory to be able to just have a higher level of discernment so that you can pick out pieces, just like I said, and take mental note of those. So like having some basic theory about chords, about the Nashville number system, right? Common chord progressions, what those sound like, what those feel like. Some interval training could be really useful. And in addition to being able to hear those things, being able to like visualize some of those things and kicking in some of those mirror neurons. So one tactic I like to use if I don't have a lot of time to practice and I'm practicing a specific set of songs or I have some goals for repertoire is I'll create a playlist on like Spotify or whatever. And like, these 5 set of songs are the songs I need to learn for the gig, or it's my goal to learn these 5 fiddle tunes in the next month. And I just create a playlist and I just like repeat to the point where I can sing the melody, to the point where I can imagine all of the moving pieces of that song, so that then when you're going to practice, you're primed. You already have this mental image of how the song works, where the melody goes, if there are any places where you need to do some extra work. Like you can prioritize your practice in your active listening. You can listen for pieces that don't make sense. Super, super crucial. Listening is almost as good as practicing. Seriously, I can't overstate that one either. At the end of the day, though, really, with all these different thoughts, to me, there are really like 3 tools that you can use for really efficient improvement, right? This isn't the shortcut, but this is the shortest path to the destination. It's not a shortcut. So having these 3 things are really crucial if you want to make progress in a limited amount of time. One is a roadmap. So a course, a lesson plan, a curriculum. You can do this yourself, and sometimes it really helps to have an outside party assess what that roadmap should be. So these are really goal-oriented. You can write and plan this out. I know we're talking about not having a lot of time, but use some of those 10 minutes, that practice time, to create a plan for yourself, create a roadmap. There's so much information on the internet right now. You can learn pretty much anything. You know how to Google. The issue is not information, but it's like a pathway through that information that is related to your specific goals. So number 1, having that roadmap is crucial. 2, I already kind of alluded to this, but having a mentor or a guide to help you navigate that roadmap in the way that you can achieve your goals best. It really helps to have an outside observer that can help you do those checks on yourself, to be honest and hold you accountable. That's kind of the biggest thing, is that mentors or teachers are able to hold you accountable and give you that motivation to spend those 10 minutes on your instrument. Mentors will help you streamline things like nobody else will. And then last, to me, community really, I can't overstate this either. Like learning with a limited amount of time in a community, like there's this multiplying factor that happens, especially when you're in a community of learners that are kind of at the same level as you and have the same motivations and goals. There's this multiplying factor that happens where if you learn together and you share that information across people, you hopefully won't make mistakes that they've made. There are lessons learned that you can share. You can make mistakes together. You can jam together. It's huge. I think that these three things, right? Having a solid roadmap that's tailored to you, having a mentor or guide to help you navigate that roadmap and to pick you up when you fall down and also hold you accountable, and then doing this within a community to have a context, to have other people that are holding you accountable and also acknowledging you for the work you've been putting in. These three things, this can work with a limited amount of time to practice. Okay, so the crazy thing about this whole presentation that I'm giving you is that, like, even if you have a lot of time to practice, I would recommend the same exact thing. So it doesn't matter if you have a lot of time or a little bit of time. The important stuff I just talked about still applies. Having a roadmap, having a mentor, having a community, actively listening, all these things are the same things I'd recommend to you, even if you had a lot of time. So I think that can give you some peace of mind, right? Like, even if you had a lot of time, you'd actually still be doing the same exact stuff. Like, it doesn't change, not having a lot of time doesn't change the content or the path even. It just makes you more efficient, honestly, I think. It can help you be more efficient. So in a way, not having a lot of time is maybe a way to prioritize what's important in your practice routine a little bit better than somebody had a lot of time. Cool. I hope this was kind of helpful. I'm wondering what other questions you have or what comments you have. If you're somebody who has been making improvements on your flat picking, on your bluegrass guitar playing in a limited amount of time or with only a little bit of time to practice, how have you been doing that? What are some things that you want to share with other people that they might find useful? Also, if you're interested in joining a community with a roadmap and a mentor, you might want to consider joining Alex's Acoustic Club. It's a community with a roadmap and a mentor, and it's a group of people that are just passionate about learning more about bluegrass guitar, learning together, and there are courses on that website, and I'm directing it all. They're free coaching calls, and I want to help you get better. So check out the link down here in the bio. Is that what they say? Link in bio? Link in the description. That's right. We're on YouTube. Anyway, have a good one, everyone.